Catherine, and for past, present, and dear sister of BPW, Ambassador of Republic of China. I will prepare my speech. Unfortunately, I spent 5 days in New York with busy schedule, visiting and talking, and also that I lost my voice, and also in New York, I caught a cold. So I'm afraid the best way is to have a young generation, very arrogant, 周玉平 to read my manuscript. If there's time, and I will try to take the questions. Thank you.
Honorary International President Catherine Bosha, former Presidents Armani Ashford, Yasmin Darwish, and Elizabeth Bannon, dear sisters of IFBPW coming from all over the world, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, what a great pleasure it is to have the 31st IFBPW Global Assembly to be held in this lovely island state, St. Kitts and Nevis. Thank you for the leadership and hard efforts to all the international presidents. While we are celebrating our assembly, we cannot forget the courage, wisdom, and the vision of Dr. Lena Phillips, the great founder of our IFBPW in New York, as early as in 1930. In human history, not until 1910, for the first time ever, that some women were able to get out of kitchen and came across countries to assemble to call for women's rights and gender justice in Copenhagen, Denmark. The historical statement on Equal Pay Day for women labor was proclaimed on March 8. That's why March 8 is celebrated as Women's Day globally and gradually. But not until 1975. The UN proclaimed it the International Year of Women, and not until 2010, the Commission of the Status of Women, so-called UNCSW, was set up as UN. Who am I? Standing in front of you is an old lady born on the D-Day when the Allied force landfall on Normandy, France, to fight against the Nazis and to end up the war in Europe. Twice in my childhood.
Which means I am 81.
Twice in my childhood, I was almost given away to other families richer than my own. It was a common practice at the end of World War II in Taiwan. With great economic depression, girls were adopted out and the pre-marriage was arranged. Thanks for the protection of my sister and the brother, I was eventually prevented from being adopted and began to receive normal education. In order to demonstrate that being a girl was nothing wrong, I studied as hard as my brother, and both of us graduated from law school of the National Taiwan University. became a successful and respectable lawyer, and I became a crusade of the feminist movement along with anti-autocracy movement. Under great pressure and harassment by the KMT repression region and the neo-tribalist society, at the age of 30, I suffered from thyroid carcinoma. At the age of 36, I was jailed by the martial court and charged to the sedition with 12 years imprisonment, simply because I made an appealing and insightful speech at the 1979 International Human Rights Rally. Thanks to endless rescue efforts globally and domestically, I only have served 33 days in the prison. Out of anyone's expectation, 20 years after trial, I was elected to be the first woman vice president in Taiwan. And the president is the youngest defense lawyer who defended in the martial law court. It's noted that Taiwan has been ruled by one single party, the KMT, for 50 years under martial law. The autocracy was overthrown without bloodshed. One of the key reasons to success of this unprecedented peaceful transition of power was because of many women who used to support the ruling autocracy turned to vote for me as a determination to lift up their glass ceiling of women's destiny. The 2000 Taiwan's lift up their glass ceiling of women's destiny. The 2000 Taiwan's peaceful transformation deserved world compliment. Regretfully, President Chen and my devotion to peace and democracy were nearly assassinated our second term. Both of us were shot by bullets, but miraculously survived. The case is still unsolved, and I'm still working up for the truth behind. With such a unique background, I would like to take this prestigious occasion to discuss with my dear BPW sisters how and what women should work with men, not against, but in cooperation with, toward the new page from human stories, from stories to history. From history to her story. With such a unique background, I would like to take this prestigious occasion to discuss with my as you are aware of, in 2024, 76 countries with over a half global population have their president election respectively. Thus, we have reason and obligation to be prepared to expect a new era of a new civilization starting from next year. 2024 Global Gender Parity. Let's take a contemporary perception of today's world. According to the UN report dated in July this year, there are 8.16 billion people. 4.16 billion are male and 4 billion are female. The total population in Asia is 4.86 billion, while North America had only 3.9 billion. Africa 1.50 billion, Europe 0.75 billion, and Latin American 0.66 billion. Globally, the life expectancy is 72.3 years, and the women live 6 years longer than men. My belief is that God allowed women to live longer to compensate the years they sacrifice for raising children. In terms of the global gender gap, the UN report indicates the following main points. First, the global gender gap score in 2024 stands at 68.5% across 146 countries. Second, Europe is the top performing region, stands at 75%, with Iceland to lead the world in gender parity at 93.5%. Third, however, it will take another 134 years to reach full gender parity overall. According to the UN report in 2023, there have been 52 countries which have female presidents, but 11 were in power less a year. 23 out of 151 countries and female head to state, and 62 had lady speakers at their Congress. But this year, it listed 65 female heads of state globally. What a progress! Other than politics, women's economic empowerment also deserves our attention. Are you aware of that President and CEO of the following world well-known enterprises are women, such as General Motors, IBM, Facebook, YouTube, Alphabet, Nasdaq, Citigroup, Walmart, Tesla Holdings, and the Fidelity Investment. Being the founder of the feminist movement in Taiwan as early as 1970s, may I briefly share with you women's achievements over a half-century struggling in my country. In 2000, I became the first female vice president elected, and the only one re-elected. After that, Taiwan had a female president, and currently the vice president is also a lady. At the Congress, women occupied 41.6%, and the 47 in the judicial department, including judges, prosecutors, and lawyers. In terms of economic power, out of 1.63 million Taiwanese entrepreneurs, 37.5% are owned by women. And women prevailed men in the field of education and medical care. Basically, the gender parity in Taiwan is ranked #1 in Asia and on the top 10 globally. Women peace security. Despite that Taiwan has not yet become a UN member, the International Federation of BPW kindly admitted Taiwan as the 82nd country federation in 2008. Ever since then, Taiwan Federation has worked closely with the International Federation with our heartfelt appreciation. In particular, I myself have had the privilege to be invited to deliver keynote speeches at the following Congress ever since Taiwan became a member BPW Federation. First, write her story into story, 2008 Mexico. Second, when women lead, green renovation will save the earth, 2011 Helsinki. Third, women leadership in the 21st century, 2014 Jeju. Today, I would like to stress an urgent and important issue to echo with the UN's Decades for Women agenda, women, peace, and security. Throughout thousands of years, human history, with very few expectations, war after war was declared by men at the sacrifice of women and women's beloved husbands and children. Women have had no way to say no to the world at all, though women's inherent duty is to bring forth and sustain life, not to kill, nor to destroy. Feminist Peace Summit and UN. 30 years ago, in 1995, 1 week before the UN's Beijing Women Conference was held, I organized and hosted the Feminist Summit for Global Peace in Taipei. Many women leaders prepared to Beijing's conference were invited to Taiwan with the hope to bring message for peace to China. At the end of the Peace Summit, we declared a statement with feminist perspective. Allow me to quote some major points to share with you. First, recognize that the global policy into the next century should be based on the percent not kill, but to protect and enhance life. It is time to reinvest our resources into a culture of peace and sustainable development. Second, affirm that it is time for total elimination of all arms of mass destruction. Strategically open dialogue and negotiation must be replaced to use of armed force. Third, acknowledge that the protection of rights, lives, and integrity of all children and marginalized people fundamental for the safeguard of peace. Fourth, recommend that the role of private citizens and builders of peace within and between their communities should be strengthened. Women must take their right for peace with men in struggling policy in governments and at the workplace. Finally, we propose that UN declare the year 2000 as the International Year of Global Peace. Although eventually UN declared the year 2001 instead of the 2000 to be the International Year of Peace 1 year early. In 2000, the UN Security Council passed a resolution 1325 to adopt 10 key resolutions on women, peace, and security to form the decade agenda. Women, peace, and security. The main points included in the resolution are: first, to ensure increased representation of women at all decision-making levels for the prevention, management, and resolution of conflict and peace processes. Second, to expand the role and contribution of women in the UN field based on operation. Third, to increase financial, technical, and logically support for gender-sensitive training efforts. Fourth, to call on all parties to arm conflict to take special measures to protect women and girls from sexual-based violence. Fifth, to carry out a study on the impact of armed conflict on women and girls, the role of women in peacekeeper and peace building are the gender dimensions of peace processing and conflict resolutions. 24 years later, after 2024 Washington Summit, a new policy of women, peace and security was adopted and was later adopted by the NATO in Europe, and the Department of Peace Operation DPO was thus mandated as the forefront of the advancing women, peace and security agenda. In a word, the UN Security Council highlights the importance of the equal and full participation of women as active agents in peace and security. Isn't it duty honor of our IFBPW as the oldest and most powerful global women's federation to commit to the most urgent and significant issue to prevent war and protect the earth? As all of us are fully aware of, our common mother, the earth, has been drastically endangered, and any kind of war just fosters their destruction. The earth has been endangered not only because of global warming, but also because of the solar storms caused by the active solar spots and the solar flares, many other untoward natural factors. We human beings, as the passengers of the earth, not the owner, should be obligated to prevent its substantial development rather than to destroy it. No one owns the world, nor any country should dedicate the world. Unfortunately, shortly after suffering from the COVID-19 pandemic, countless innocent people in East Europe first and then in the Middle East have been deprived of their life, health, and property by wars. War is the evil of evil as it killed living beings and destroyed everything on earth. It is a shame. It is the worst thing. Shortly after birth of the war in Ukraine, some Western observers began to deem Taiwan as the Asian Ukraine. We people in Taiwan felt upset and irritated and began to launch a peace campaign for Taiwan as well as for the region in East Asia. With the strong support of Taiwan BPW Federation and many other peace-loving NGOs, we launched a peace and love campaign to enhance harmony at home and abroad as well. After 2 years' efforts, more and more people get together to invest peace and prevent war. In particular, I have succeeded in advocating a Japan-Korea-Taiwan win-win-win union. Action recently with the hope of integrate these three countries to become the global triangle. Despite that century years ago, they fought and resented against one another. On late September 28-29, 300 peace and democracy-loving participants from Korea, Taiwan, and Japan co-sponsored the East Asia Peace Forum together in Tokyo. It was unprecedented and inspiring, and the representatives from Japan, Korea, and Taiwan will meet again to sign an MOU for the Win-Win-Win Union on December 9th in Taiwan. Indeed, the philosophy of win-win-win instead of live or die, win or loss, is the only recipe to save the earth and stop the war. May I conclude my speech by proposing the under and leadership of our newly elected president and vice presidents, the IFBPW call on another feminist summit for global peace in the near future, with the cooperation of as many as possible excellent world women leaders together. Let us women stop the war in Europe and in the Middle East. Let's prevent another war in East Asia to save the Eden Garden. Thank you.
Ladies, I do believe I can speak on behalf of everyone when I say we are inspired. Inspired. I said at the beginning that she was a fascinating woman, but to hear her tell her story and how her story allowed the pages of other women to know write their own story is fascinating. So at this time, I'd also like to thank the young lady who assisted. I didn't get her name. Thank you so very much for assisting us. Where is she?
She's over there. Caroline,
thank you so very much for your service. And so now, we open up for a few questions. If you would like to pose any questions to Dr. Lu, she'd be happy to answer. Don't be shy.
Annette, thank you very much for that very inspiring speech. The wonderful memories of my friendship with you over the years is really exceptional. Your leadership in this issue has been inspiring for many years. And I want to thank you very, very much for this continued commitment that you have given and how you are just dedicated to women and everything with peace and love. It is really very inspiring for all of us. I don't really have a question for you with Taiwan, but as you know, we have had many meetings in the UN about Taiwan. Have you had any more input into where that stands with Taiwan being accepted back into the UN, because you know you're not? And have you had anybody that's working on that so that you have a seat at the table there?
Yeah. I started the campaign for UN for Taiwan, but I know just like move, not easy to get on. Now the current problem, how to solve the dispute, the tension between America, China, and Taiwan. Taiwan is a tiny island, so close to China, yet we never, even we have been forgotten, we never give up. Now we survive with remarkable achievement. So I think it's time for us to take the lead. So I went to Korea, went to Japan, and I wrote a book to be and analyze what happened in past centuries, and that the book was published in Taiwan, in Japan, and in Korea. Many readers and reporters good publicity. So I think it's time. Starting with cooperating in Korea first last year, and this year we invite Korean people to Japan. Despite that, Korea and Japanese, in fact, are not comfortable to get together. But after my speech, everybody stand up and we will call win-win-win.
Wow. I think what is also very interesting is sometimes we think something cannot be done, and it just takes that person with the spirit that says it can, we'll get the right people, we don't have to choose, but we can do it together. Therefore the theme, new actions through cooperation. I have a question here and then I'm moving down.
Thank you. Thank you very much for this very, very, very interesting, but also for your leadership. You are a woman icon across the whole world to fight for peace. Do we have to fight for peace? You see, this is the whole vision. You mentioned the war in Ukraine, in the Middle East. I would like you to give us the vision of what we as women organizations here around the globe could do to stop the wars, to have peace, even among us as women organizations. It is very important. Yes, ladies, she's a woman icon, she's fighting for peace. We as business and professional women, we have to really take you as a role model to see how we have peace among us, peace in the world. I know you have, before Beijing Conference for Women, which made a big declaration, 20 pillars, including women in poverty, women in peace, women in economy. How do you envisage, if we want to do another summit in Taiwan, what is the message we want to send to the world? And how do you think this summit could raise the voices of us as women to have peace without fighting? Thank you.
As I say, throughout the history, his story only, war hardly was declared by women, but we sacrificed everything. Now, we have to write her story. And according to the statistics that I mentioned to you, we have reason to believe that the time is up, that 21st century is the beginning of she century. Surprise! The most effective report from the UN, there are 65 countries who have female leaders, nearly 1/3. So I think we should work together with the prestige of IFBPW. If we conducted a global summit for women again somewhere in Taiwan, was so welcome, to invite powerful women leaders all come. Take a look at Taiwan. Why should become another Ukraine? We refuse, so then we won't make it happen.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. You were absolutely marvelous with us. This is incredible as it always is. I heard you before, that every time I feel inspired and humbled. Because one thing is that we are capable of so many things, but when we hear your story, it's very, very humbling. So we know that not all of that can be done. So thank you again for that. And I would like you to tell us how this new summit can be organized. Is Taiwan going to organize it, or shall we get together to do that? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the compliment. We'll wait until who will be elected to be our next president and the international secretary. If you support peace, we should advise the next president and vice president seriously take it. Because That's the agenda for dedicated agenda for women decided by UN Security Council. Most of women forgot this, so I remind everybody. In between 2020 to 2030, that's the agenda. So maybe our next new president can take this. And
thank you so very much. And I know that we have a lot of persons who want to ask questions, but because we are running a very tight schedule, I know there's just one more person who has the mic, and after you speak, unfortunately, I can't take any more questions, but Dr. Lu will be here in case you have any other questions. So this is the final question, then I will hand over to Dr. Boschart.
Dr. Lu, thank you for your service and greetings from Finland. We have discussed and you mentioned UN Women. When is the time when we don't have UN Women, but we have women within the UN?
thank you, especially International President Catherine Boshart. Allow me to speak. Unfortunately, someone called my voice, so I didn't deliver. But if you got my point, I think number one, the earth is really endangered. Number two, war just foster the destruction of earth. Number three, when 21st century becomes she century, it's time for women to stand up and say, any war without women's consent shall not be declared. Agree? Thank you.
Dear Dr. Annette Lu, stay with me for a moment. Thank you so very much. We have talked a lot about, no, stay here with me, please. Dr. Lu? Just a little thank you and remembrance of stkitts. It's not from island to island. Thank you very much. We have talked a lot in Taiwan about this summit, and I have had my repercussions when I was at UN speaking at UNESCO this year. And then somebody came from behind and said, you should not talk about Taiwan. They will cut you the mic off. So I can only hope things are getting better and we can work in a collaborative way and not in an exclusive way. And I really hope that my successor will support this summit. You have mine. You know, Taiwan is for me like a second home. I have family in Taiwan, and I really hope we manage to work further and that the resolution 1325 gets more impact and gets more importance. I think there are still not many women on the peace table. So thank you very, very much for having come this long way. I hope you are getting better soon. And now, coffee break is waiting, and then we start with the business.